In a chaotic society striving for survival, dominance emerges as a tool for control. Bitcoin, the revolutionary digital currency, was hailed as the key to financial freedom. But has it turned into a modern tool for enslavement? Today, let's uncover the reality behind Bitcoin's meteoric rise and its deeper societal implications. Chapter 1: The Promise of Bitcoin. Bitcoin was born out of a noble idea: decentralization and freedom from traditional banking systems. By eliminating intermediaries, Bitcoin promised to put power back into the hands of the people. In its early days, visionaries saw it as a path to financial sovereignty, an escape from inflation, a shield against censorship, and a new form of digital gold. Quotes from Satoshi Nakamoto echoed the dream of a fairer, more transparent financial system. Programmable money that anyone could access. But every promise hides a price, and Bitcoin is no exception. As Bitcoin gained popularity, the landscape began to change. What was once a decentralized dream started to morph into something more sinister. The energy-intensive process of mining, concentrated in the hands of a few, has led to a new digital caste. Massive mining farms sprouted up, consuming as much power as some small countries. The average person could no longer compete. And then there's the trading. The allure of quick riches has drawn countless individuals into high-risk investments, creating a volatile market where whales dominate. These powerful entities manipulate prices, leaving small investors vulnerable to financial ruin. Is Bitcoin just digital gold, a speculative asset? Or has it become a weapon of control? In places where electricity is scarce and employment opportunities are limited, people turn to Bitcoin mining to survive. But this survival comes at a cost. Long hours, poor working conditions, and the constant pressure to meet mining targets. Is this the financial freedom that was promised? Bitcoin's rise has undeniably created opportunities, but it has also carved out a digital divide. Those at the top reap the rewards, while those at the bottom bear the burden. As we navigate this new financial frontier, it's crucial to question who really benefits and who pays the price. So has Bitcoin become the very thing it sought to dismantle? A new form of modern slavery in the guise of technological progress? The answer may not be clear-cut, but one thing is certain: the revolution is far from over. Stay curious, stay informed, and always dig deeper. Thanks for watching. If you found this video thought-provoking, hit the like button and subscribe for more insights. Until next time, take care. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, and frankly, who could blame you at this point, you've heard of Bitcoin. It's the cryptocurrency everyone's talking about, the future of finance, the revolution against big banks, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. But here's the thing. What if I told you this whole Bitcoin boom isn't just about making a quick buck? What if it's actually laying the foundation for a new kind of societal structure? One where your digital wallet dictates your place in the world. And no, I don't mean in that, oh, I can finally afford avocado toast kind of way. We're talking about a world where Bitcoin and the technology behind it could create a digital caste system. A world where the haves hold all the cards, or rather the crypto keys, and the have-nots are left scrambling for scraps in the ever-growing shadow of the Bitcoin boom. So buckle up, because over the next few chapters, we're diving headfirst into the unsettling reality behind the shiny promises of Bitcoin. We're going to explore how this digital gold rush might not be paving the way to a decentralized utopia, but rather to a terrifyingly familiar system of control and disparity. Now, let's talk about the inherent structure of Bitcoin, shall we? Because when you peel back the layers of technobabble and libertarian fantasies, you find something that looks a lot like, well, a pyramid. You see, Bitcoin operates on the principle of scarcity. There's a finite amount of it, and that artificial scarcity is what's supposed to give it value. But here's the kicker: the early adopters, the ones who hopped on the Bitcoin bandwagon when it was still in its digital diapers, they're the ones sitting pretty at the top of this pyramid. They gobbled up Bitcoin when it was practically worthless, and now they're sitting on digital mountains of cash. But what about everyone else? What about the people who got in later, drawn in by the siren song of overnight riches? Well, they're the ones propping up the whole damn pyramid. They're buying Bitcoin at increasingly inflated prices, hoping to grab a piece of the pie before it's too late. But the reality is, the later you get in, the less there is to go around. And that, my friends, is the genius of the Bitcoin pyramid. It thrives on the desperation of those at the bottom, constantly feeding the illusion of opportunity, while the real rewards are already spoken for. It's essentially a digital game of musical chairs, and when the music stops, well, let's just say you don't want to be the one without a seat. Now, the truly insidious thing about this whole Bitcoin pyramid scheme is that it's not just about money. Oh no, it's so much bigger than that. Because what these Bitcoin evangelists are really selling is access. Access to a new world order, if you will, where everything is tokenized, digitized, and controlled by, you guessed it, Bitcoin. Imagine a world where you need Bitcoin to access basic services, to participate in the digital economy, to even have a voice in how things are run. It's a world where your Bitcoin holdings aren't just a measure of your wealth, but a measure of your influence, your privilege, your very right to exist in this brave new digital world. And that's the real kicker, isn't it? Because if you don't have Bitcoin, you're not just poor, you're irrelevant. You're locked out of the system, a digital peasant in a world ruled by crypto kings. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? But it's a reality we need to confront. Because the more entrenched Bitcoin becomes in our lives, the more power it gives to those who control it. And right now, that power is concentrated in the hands of a very small, very wealthy, and very vocal minority. All right, so we've talked about the Bitcoin pyramid, but now let's talk about the technology that underpins it all, the blockchain. Now, if you listen to the crypto bros, the blockchain is nothing short of a technological miracle. A decentralized, transparent ledger that will revolutionize, well, everything. They'll tell you it's the key to a fairer, more equitable world. A world without banks, without governments, without any of the institutions that have traditionally held power. But here's the thing. The blockchain, for all its supposed transparency, can also be a tool for obfuscation. Because while every transaction is recorded, the identities behind those transactions are often hidden behind layers of cryptography. And who benefits from that anonymity? Well, let's just say it's not the average Joe trying to buy groceries with his hard-earned Bitcoin. No, it's the criminals, the tax evaders, the dark web denizens who thrive in the shadows. It's the very people this technology was supposedly designed to expose. And here's the other thing about the blockchain. It's permanent. Every transaction, every bit of data is etched into the digital stone, immutable and everlasting. Now, on the surface, that might sound like a good thing. After all, who doesn't love a good, unalterable record? But what happens when that record is used against you? What happens when your every financial decision, every online interaction is laid bare for the world to see? Because that's the other side of the blockchain coin. It's not just a tool for transparency, it's a tool for surveillance. A digital panopticon where every move you make is tracked, analyzed, and potentially used against you. And who controls this panopticon? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because the more centralized the blockchain becomes, the more it resembles the very systems it was designed to replace. So is the blockchain a tool for liberation or a digital prison in disguise? Well, like most things in life, the answer is probably a bit of both. But one thing's for sure, we need to be asking these questions now before it's too late. So we've established that Bitcoin is basically a pyramid scheme for libertarians with too much faith in algorithms. But the real kicker? It's not just about who gets rich. It's about who gets to exist comfortably in this brave new Bitcoin world. Because, see, in this glorious, decentralized future they keep telling us about, if you don't have Bitcoin, you're essentially a digital peasant. Imagine a world where your ability to, say, get a mortgage, access healthcare, or even buy groceries hinges on owning a currency that fluctuates more than a pigeon in a wind tunnel. Sounds dystopian, right? Well, buckle up, because that's the future these Bitcoin bros are building, brick by digital brick. It's like we're taking the worst parts of feudalism, adding a sprinkle of Silicon Valley arrogance, and calling it disruption. Think about it. In the good old, bad old days of actual, non-ironic slavery, at least you technically got food and shelter, however substandard. But in this shiny new Bitcoin dystopia, if you're not mining those sweet, sweet digital coins for the Bitcoin barons, you're out of luck. You become a digital sharecropper, toiling away in the fields of the internet, just to earn enough Bitcoin to, I don't know, afford a single pixelated potato in the metaverse. Because remember, in this decentralized utopia, there's no pesky government to provide a safety net. You're at the mercy of the invisible hand of the market, which, let's be honest, has always been a bit grabby. And don't even get me started on the environmental impact of all this. We're literally burning the planet to power a system that could very well leave millions in digital squalor. It's like we learned absolutely nothing from the Industrial Revolution except how to make it worse with blockchain technology. Now, you might think, but John, surely governments would step in, right? They wouldn't just let a bunch of crypto-obsessed tech bros turn our financial system into their own personal monopoly board? Well, my sweet summer child, that's where things get truly terrifying. Because these Bitcoin evangelists, they're not just content with hoarding digital tokens. They're playing the long game. They're pouring money into lobbying efforts, whispering sweet nothings into the ears of politicians, all with the goal of shaping regulations in their favor. It's like watching a sausage get made. Only instead of meat, it's our democracy, and instead of spices, it's untraceable digital currency. And you know what the worst part is? It's working. We're seeing more and more politicians, from both sides of the aisle, cozying up to the crypto crowd, parroting their talking points about innovation and freedom. It's enough to make you wonder if they even understand the first thing about blockchain technology, or if they're just blinded by the promise of campaign donations. The irony is, of course, that Bitcoin was supposed to be about decentralization, about taking power away from institutions and giving it back to the people. But what we're actually witnessing is the birth of a new oligarchy, a small, elite group of early adopters and investors who are consolidating their power and influence with every passing day. They're building a system where they write the rules, control the currency, and reap the rewards, while the rest of us are left to fight over the digital scraps. It's the Gilded Age all over again, only this time the robber barons are wearing hoodies and trading in cryptocurrency instead of railroads and oil. And the really scary thing is, most people don't even see it happening. They're too busy staring at their phones, hoping the price of Bitcoin will go up so they can finally afford a down payment on a virtual beach house in the metaverse. But by the time they realize what's happened, it might already be too late. The digital drawbridge will be raised, and we'll all be trapped on the wrong side of the digital divide. Bitcoin. It was supposed to be the great equalizer, the digital knight in shining armor here to rescue us from the tyranny of big banks and centralized power. But let's be honest, folks, it's starting to look less like a knight and more like a feudal lord demanding its digital serfdom. Remember that dream of a decentralized utopia where everyone has a fair shot? Yeah, well, scratch that. We're hurtling towards a digital feudal system where your worth is measured in satoshis instead of acres. The problem isn't just the wealth gap, although that's certainly a gaping, festering wound. It's the erosion of trust, the death of opportunity, and the slow strangulation of autonomy. It's the digital equivalent of being tied to the land, except this time the land is owned by an algorithm. One of the supposed selling points of Bitcoin was this whole peer-to-peer thing. Cut out the middleman, empower the people, all that jazz. But what happens when the middleman is replaced by an inherently unequal system? You get a society riven by suspicion where transactions are less about trust and more about self-preservation. Imagine a world where every interaction is filtered through the lens of, how much Bitcoin do you have? It's enough to make you long for the halcyon days of arguing over the phone bill. And what about online identity? We're already drowning in data breaches and privacy violations. Now imagine a world where your digital existence is intrinsically tied to your Bitcoin wallet. Forget about targeted advertising. We're talking about targeted access to basic services. The promise of Bitcoin was to liberate us from the shackles of the powerful. Instead, it risks forging new chains, invisible but no less binding. Let's be clear. The Bitcoin boom isn't just some abstract financial trend playing out on Wall Street trading floors. This is a social reckoning, folks. A seismic shift in how we value, interact with, and ultimately define ourselves within a digital world. Sure, Bitcoin offers tantalizing opportunities. Early adopters, tech bros, and people who unironically call themselves crypto evangelists, they're having a grand old time. But what about the rest of us? The ones who weren't lucky enough to get in on the ground floor? We're staring down a future where access to basic necessities, from healthcare to education to a decent internet connection, could hinge on whether you hopped on the Bitcoin bandwagon early enough. And let me tell you, that's a terrifying dystopian novel waiting to be written. Now, before you all go full doomsday prepper and start stockpiling canned goods and Bitcoin, wait, is that a thing? Let me offer a glimmer of hope. It's not too late. We're at a fork in the blockchain, so to speak. The future of Bitcoin, and more importantly, the future of our digital society, hinges on a fundamental choice. Will we continue down this path of unfettered accumulation, where wealth begets power and power begets a whole lot of ethically dubious outcomes? Or will we choose a different path? One where we recognize that true freedom lies not in the accumulation of digital tokens, but in the equitable distribution of opportunity, access, and yes, even wealth. The choice, as cheesy as it sounds, is ours. Look, Bitcoin itself isn't inherently evil. It's just a tool like a hammer or well, you get the idea. It's all about how we choose to use it. Do we build a more just and equitable world? Or do we just end up with a digital aristocracy lording it over everyone else? We have the power to shape the future of technology, to ensure that it serves humanity, not the other way around. The question isn't whether Bitcoin will succeed or fail. The question is, what will we do with it?